Welcome to Against the Spread, where we pick games for you against the spread. And at Sportsnet over here, we're doing pretty good, Gilo, in a weird year with no real training camp. And the beginning of the season is always tough. And oh, right, you have this thing called COVID. We're already 10 games above 500.
Yeah, and you had a bounce back week this week. I had a so-so week, which was kind of, I mean, I'm not going to make excuses for myself, but I would never have picked the Brian Hoyer-led Patriots, just to be fair. So we're tied right now, but we shouldn't be. Just saying.
Right. Well, there's going to be some more uncertainty in really who you may want to pick, depending on who's playing quarterback or if games are played at all. But that is the way this year is going to go from a gambling perspective. Let's get right into it. The Thursday nighter, Tampa Bay and Tom Brady, who's looking like vintage Tom Brady, goes to Chicago, where Big Nick did not look like vintage Nick Foles. That's why the Buccaneers are 5.5-point favorites. Do you like them as a road favorite?
I think I do like the Bucs as a road favorite, and I kind of alluded to last week how I think Nick Foles would struggle here because he takes it just takes time. It usually takes him time, and we saw with the Jags that he didn't fit in right away. Some Eagles games he played were really rough to watch. It's just a slow developing thing with Nick Foles sometimes. And it doesn't get any easier against a really good Bucs defense. I know they got torched by Justin Herbert, but I think that's more Chargers than it is Bucs being an issue on defense. So after the Bears put little to no offense together in that game against the Colts on Sunday, I don't think it's going to get any better on a short week. So I'm going to take the Buccaneers. I think they showed the offense is clicking. They came back from a huge deficit, and Tom Brady is finding his groove.
Yeah, he really is. And I love the Bucs in this matchup, and I love Brady specific. Against the Chargers, he had 4 TD passes against the zone. What do you get? You got a team in Chicago who plays a lot of zone, trusting that their pass rush is going to get home. Well, Tom Brady's been well protected. I think he has a big day, and Tampa Bay wins going away. Speaking of quarterbacks who may not having a big day, but playing better than I perceived in that division. No, not Drew Brees. I'm talking about Teddy Bridgewater and the Panthers. Back-to-back wins without CMC McCaffrey. They go to Atlanta with a coaching staff that's coaching for their job potentially, with a bye coming up. But yet the Falcons in this game are 2.5-point favorites. This line is really surprising. I thought it would be 2.5 going the other way. So I'm on the Panthers. Or you?
Yeah, I'm going to go with the Panthers, and a lot of it has to do with the fact that the Panthers are getting better. We've seen Matt Rule's offense go from one that struggled to do anything to one that struggled to score in the red zone to one that absolutely dominated the Arizona Cardinals over the weekend. And now they come up against a Falcons defense that is not only not very good, but suffered so many injuries in that Monday night loss to Green Bay. They don't really even have a secondary. During the broadcast last night, they were saying how some linebackers might play safety. That is not good. And I think Teddy Bridgewater will be able to have his way. And like you said, I think Dan Quinn might get fired after this. He might join Bill O'Brien looking for a job because it's just really bad in Atlanta right now, and the injuries aren't helping.
Two coaches not in jeopardy in terms of losing their jobs. The Battle of Pennsylvania, we'll see it Sunday at 1 o'clock, where the first place Pittsburgh Steelers, still undefeated at 3-0 as they didn't have a game, face off against, that's right, the first place Philadelphia Eagles. Who knew playing for a tie was the smart play in the NFC least? But the Eagles did play well this past weekend. But for that, they are 7-point underdogs on the road in state against their in-state rivals. Is 7 points enough for you to say, okay, I'm on the Eagles again?
When I was first looking at this spread, I thought initially that I was going to go with the Eagles because it did feel a bit big, and they were big underdogs on Sunday night and ended up pulling it out. But that was against a really banged up Niners team with multiple backup quarterbacks in. And I think the Eagles can fare pretty well against the Steelers offense. I think the Eagles defense is above average. And I still feel like the Steelers are trying to find their footing offensively. But I think with a banged up offensive line the way it is, we saw Lane Johnson in and out of the lineup on Sunday night. I just don't know how they're going to survive against this aggressive, blitzing, dominant Steelers defense. And I just think with no receivers, banged up offensive line, like I said, I don't know how Carson Wentz is going to be able to put up points. So 7 from that point of view isn't actually that big a spread.
I agree. And Pittsburgh coming off a unusual bye, I suppose. I mean, not a traditional bye in the fact that you have 2 weeks to get ready for your next opponent, but a bye in the sense that you get some early rest in the season, which probably isn't good for them in the long run. You'd want that bye maybe week 10 plus, but they get it now, and I like them at 7 points now because of the way the schedule falls. 2 teams in that division face off as well in the AFC North as the Bengals. The frisky Bengals go to Baltimore, and the Ravens are 13.5-point favorites. This line started at 13, and it's already moved to 13.5. Is that too many points for Lamar Jackson and company?
I'm surprised at this. I honestly don't think that this line is showing enough respect to what Joe Burrow and the Bengals have done so far this season. I mean, yes, they're 1-3, but I don't think we can look back at any of their games and say that they were getting blown out, or they at least didn't have a chance to win any of them. So, yeah, sure, the Ravens are dominant, and they did what we expected them to do against that Washington team on the weekend, but they were also like a terrible Dwayne Haskins 4th and goal play away from not covering on the weekend. So against Joe Burrow, who is playing really good football right now, and a Bengals offense with good weapons, I don't love 13.5, and so I'm going to take the underdog Bengals on the road.
You know what? I was leaning that way. You know, the Bengals are 1-3, but they're 3-1 against the spread.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Again, it's one of those games where, you know, midway through the second quarter, I'd be kicking myself if I didn't go with Baltimore. I know it's a lot of points, but when Baltimore wins, they win big, right? That's kind of how they win games. They really struggle in close games, and so I do think they're going to win, and thus it begs to reason that they are going to win big. And so I'm going to go with Baltimore in that one. Jacksonville and Houston. This is another line that surprised me.
Yes,
maybe this is a referendum on Bill O'Brien and his ability to coach, or lack thereof. The Houston Texans are 6.5-point favorites over the Jacksonville Jaguars. Now, no, the Jacksonville Jaguars are not a dominant football team, but they do have a win, and the Texans are still looking for their first. And as we've said many times, home field doesn't mean much this year. 6.5 points, not just favorites. 6.5 points.
I know.
I'm just gonna go with Jacksonville because I'm not certain Houston's better at all. Never mind a touchdown better. Where are you leaning?
I was equally as shocked as you are at this spread because, like, why? What has Houston shown us with Bill O'Brien, or now without, that is going to make me think that they can cover a touchdown spread here against an in-division opponent? In division games usually being, you know, tougher than non-division. So, you know, and now Romeo Crennel is in charge. I don't see the offense improving under a defensive coach. So I'm going to take the Jags too when it comes down to it, because there's just no reason to pick Houston.
Yeah, there's no reason to pick Houston. There's also, for me, no reason to pick either team in our next game, and that's right. Buffalo going to Tennessee. There's no opening line. There's no over-under. We don't really know if this game certainly is going to be, one, played, and two, if it's going to be played on Sunday, and there will be a bunch of scheduling ramifications if it's not played this week, and specifically on Sunday. For me, this is a stay away. I would lean to the Bills. I think they've been the more impressive undefeated team between the two. But I also just don't really know how ready Tennessee is going to be to play football when they haven't been able to go in their facility for the better part of a week. So I'm saying stay away, but if you have to, whatever the line ends up being, lean to Buffalo. What do you make of this?
Yeah, I think it's a marked disadvantage to obviously not be able to go into your facilities for a week plus, like the Titans have been unable to, and we don't know who's going to be able to play and who isn't going to be able to play based on positive COVID cases. So I would say, yeah, lean Bills. I think this is definitely the toughest team the Bills have faced so far. So the size of the spread, whatever it ends up being, if this game goes, would make a difference to me. I think if it's 6.5, I'd lean Titans, but if it's within, 3.5, as if the Bills were favored, I'm assuming, then that's when I'd probably go Bills. But it's tough either way. There's so many wild cards in this one. So like you said, stay away.
Next, we got Arizona going to the Jets. At home, the Jets are 6.5-point dogs, which to me is pretty good value because this line started at 8.5 and it's moved. If you can get it right now, I do like the Cardinals. Even though they've been trending down, they haven't played well in the last 2 weeks. They just haven't played well all year. Where are you leaning in this one?
Yeah, I'm the same way. The Cardinals, I think we're kind of seeing who they are. I think they're probably a middle of the pack team that may be able to get it together enough to compete for one of those final wild card spots. But I don't think they're bad enough that the Jets are going to be able to stand with them. I mean, we don't know about Sam Darnold. It doesn't sound like he's going to be able to play in this game. And the defense is not only bad, but undisciplined. Those penalties they took on Thursday night, not only are they reckless and dangerous, but they're also really dumb and they hurt your team. And if we see more of that from the Jets against this Cardinals team, which despite their struggles can put up points and can take advantage of mistakes, I think they should win this game pretty easily.
I agree. Raiders going to KC in an AFC West matchup. The line has already moved from 11.5 to 12.5 points. And again, that's a lot of points, but there isn't a KC line unless it's against another championship level opponent that I'm really afraid of. So I'm actually going to put my money on KC to cover that 12.5. Where are you leaning in this one?
Yeah, I wasn't exactly pretty on Monday night against the Patriots, but I think that has lots to do with the Patriots defense and that Bill Belichick team. That's just what he does against better opponents. He tries to shut them down. But when it comes to the Raiders, they're obviously not the Patriots, and John Gruden, as good as he can be as a coach, isn't Bill Belichick. And I look back last year just to see how these teams fared against each other, and the Chiefs won both matchups and won them by a combined score of 68-19, and they covered 12.5 in both. So I have no qualms taking the Chiefs, even though the number is a bit uncomfortable. History would tell us that the Chiefs are going to take care of business here.
I think so as well. I also think the Niners are probably going to take care of business. They host Miami. The line started at 8.5. Now it's 9.5. We got a lot of big numbers this week. I do think, though, San Fran getting a bit healthier. Deebo Samuel's back. He had limited reps in week 4, expected more in week 5. So I do think San Francisco can cover this number against the Dolphins. Where are you leaning?
I'm going to go the other way, especially if Jimmy Garoppolo isn't back yet. I watched all that Sunday Nighter, and the backup situation in San Fran is not as good as people said it was. I don't think there's a real gap there's a huge gap between Jimmy Graham or Jimmy Garoppolo and the rest. And the Dolphins have been, able to hang around in games. They did so against the Seahawks, and I think they'll be able to do that here as well. That spread is just a bit too big for me against a banged up 49ers team.
The Washington football team is home once again, back-to-back weeks. However, they're underdogs once again. They're 8-point dogs to the Los Angeles Rams, who come to town. By the time this game happens at Sunday at 1, not sure if Dwayne Haskins still going to be the quarterback. He's been put on notice publicly by Ron Rivera and that staff. Either way, whether it's Haskins or Allen under center, I do think the Rams will win this by at least 8. So got them in this one. Where are you leading?
Yeah, Washington's shown me no reason outside of that week 1 win over the Eagles to have any faith that they can hang against most teams, let alone the Rams team, which, despite having a tough weekend against the Giants, are have an elite offense and are going to be able to put up points, especially against a team like Washington that really, really struggles in that department.
This is another big line, another one I don't really understand. Denver going to New England, and the Pats are 11-point favorites. Started at 10 and it's moved to 11. And this came out basically on the heels of New England not having a great performance, an okay one defensively, but offensively they struggled so much so that both quarterbacks, Brian Hoyer and then eventually Jared Stidham, didn't really seem to be able to get much going. Unless somebody knows for certain that Cam Newton is going to be healthy enough and really test negative enough to play in this game, I'm not really sure why the Patriots would be 11-point favorites. And even if Cam Newton is playing, that how much preparation is he going to be able to have to put New England in a spot where they're a double-digit favorite? I know the quarterback position for Denver is not great, but I mean, it's not really great for New England either. So I'll take the points in the Broncos. But am I missing something, Gio?
I mean, we must be, right? Because like I looked at this yesterday and it was 11, and I thought, okay, that'll come down, or they must know that Cam Newton's coming back or something. And then we saw the game last night, and I figured for sure it would come down. And now it's still sitting at 11 as we talk here today. And there's no way that I can take an 11-point spread if it's Hoyer or Stidham, because both of those guys were frankly terrible on Monday night. And I don't care how banged up the Broncos are. I don't see that offense being able to cover a spread that big.
The Browns certainly were not terrible on Sunday, rushing for 387 yards against my, beloved but at times hated Dallas Cowboys. And at home, they're underdogs against Indy. Two teams with just one win. Indy is 2.5-point favorites. I will say I was torn on where I should lean in this one. So help me out. Where are you leaning?
I think this is probably one of the best games of the weekend. First off, these teams have been, welcome surprises now. I think we're seeing one of the best Browns teams we've seen in a long time, and the Colts have an elite defense. But I think what I probably underestimated, as you alluded to at the beginning of this game, was that the Browns' rush offense is so dominant, like can take over a game dominant. The offensive line is amazing. And so I think that's probably the difference maker for me, and the reason that I'm going to pick the Browns, despite the Colts having a really, really great defense. I'm going to pick the Browns and their run game, even with Nick Chubb out, to be the difference maker for me here.
Yeah, if you love offensive line play, this is a game for you. The Colts
sure.
are probably the best pass blocking offensive line in football. The Browns probably, thus far, the best run blocking offensive line in football. I am going to pick the Browns, and I know the records are similar, but you look at the Browns' loss week 1 against Baltimore, championship contender. Basically, the first couple weeks was their preseason with a new coach. Now they really look comfortable in Kevin Stefanski and what he's calling. And Odell Beckham Jr. is making plays once again. So I'm going to pick the Browns to win at home. Stefanski's old team, offensively, not looking as good. And that's why Minnesota are 7-point dogs to Seattle, who is rolling offensively as Russell continues to cook. 7 points too much for you?
Yeah, and I'm going to take the Vikings here, and it's for one reason. It's because the Seahawks have the worst pass defense through 4 weeks so far, and it's not even really that close. And on the opposite side, the Vikings have PFF's top 2 ranked receivers in Justin Jefferson, who is number 1, and Adam Thielen, who is number 2. So that matchup scares me, especially when it comes to a touchdown spread. So I'm going to take the Vikings.
I'm going to take Seattle, and, I just don't know if Kirk Cousins has the ability to go shot for shot with Russell Wilson and take advantage of those weapons that he has, and obviously the great running game in Dalvin Cook. Wilson has 16 TD passes in the first 4 games, tied for the most ever with Peyton Manning. That offense is so explosive, and I do think Seattle wins this. The line started at 9, and that would have been too many points for me. But 7, I'm a little bit more comfortable, and I'm going to go with them in that direction. And there might be a fair amount of points in this next game, and that's because Dallas's offense has been crazy good. Prescott is on pace to throw 6,700 yards, or 6,700 yards, which is crazy.
Yeah.
But on the flip side, their defense is terrible. It has allowed 146 points. So really, the Giants are just going to be there and I guess benefit from how bad Dallas's defense is. Dallas, this line started at 11. It's now 9.5. Is that still too many points given the fact that Dallas is giving up so many points?
No, not for me. And I think it's because, the Giants have just the worst offense in the NFL right now. They've just done nothing to show me that they have in any way the capability to be able to keep up with the Cowboys, even with the fact that defense, like you said, is terrible. That's the only word for it. The Giants with Daniel Jones and no Saquon Barkley, they just have nothing offensively. I think this might be a little bit more low scoring than we expect. The Giants have a better defense maybe than a lot of people thought they would after 4 weeks. So I think the Cowboys could be held to less than 30 points, but I don't think the Giants are going to even come close to that number. So I'll take the Cowboys reluctantly because, they'll probably hand over 4 turnovers and be down 17-0 within the first 15 minutes. So.
Probably, which is why I'm going to take the Giants. Cowboys
figured
turnover ratio thus far by 7. Against the Browns, they gave up 7.7 yards per carry. I know Freeman is not Nick Chubb or Kareem Hunt, but when you fail to get into holes as linebackers, when you fail to make tackles down the field as a secondary, then really anyone can make plays against your defense. And so I have no faith that this Cowboys team is going to show any fight. And if they win, that it's not going to be them winning because a team basically gave a game away the way the Atlanta Falcons did. Yes, the Giants are 0-4, but really and truly, the Cowboys should be.
They should, yeah. And so that's true.
9.5 points for teams that have basically been, equally bad. Is fine with me. Yes, the Giants' offense is terrible. Odell Beckham Jr. has as many touchdowns as their entire team, but I'm not willing to say the Cowboys are going to beat anybody by 10. And so I'll take the Giants in the points, and if they win, I'll be pleasantly surprised. Herbert for the Chargers has been a pleasant surprise. He faces the former Chargers quarterback before Phillip Rivers and Drew Brees. He's cemented himself in New Orleans that we forget that he had some really good years as a Charger. But is he still good enough to be 7.5 point favorites at home, mind you, against the Chargers? And the Monday nighter, the one Monday nighter, there may be multiple. Where are you leading?
Yeah, again, this is a big number that I'm kind of surprised about based on what we saw from both teams this last weekend. The Saints, they did end up putting up a lot of points, but it was after falling down 2 touchdowns to the Lions, who are just known for that now. That's their thing. Whereas the Chargers put up a ton of points, and Justin Herbert was slinging it against one of the NFL's top 5 defenses. So I'm a little surprised that it's over a touchdown. Even with the Saints at home, we've talked plenty of times about how that doesn't really matter right now. So the way that both of these teams are playing, I'm going to go with the Chargers. I really like what the offense is doing. Herbert and Keenan Allen look to have a great relationship. And, if he keeps feeding Allen and Joshua Kelly can get it going in the absence of Austin Eckler, I like the Chargers offense to be able to keep it close.
Yeah, the Eckler injury hurts, but they've got, a couple backs, and they've been able to do it by committee. And, missing Melvin Gordon for the balance of last season didn't really impact the run game much. There's one quarterback in the league who has more than one 50-yard TD pass, and last week threw TDs to 3 different undrafted receivers. It's not the Hall of Famer Drew Brees, it's Herbert. And so
Wow.
I do actually think that based off of how well he's playing, and I feel so bad for Tyrod Taylor based on the fact that some medical malpractice is why he's lost his starting spot once again to a rookie QB who's having a lights out season. But I think the Chargers, the way I even view them as a team, is entirely different with Herbert at the helm. I don't know if they'll win this game, but I think he certainly has proven he's good enough to keep it close. Speaking of teams that are good enough to win and not keep it close, what's your survivor pick this week? What is a game that you think is not going to be close, thus someone can pick that team in survivor and feel pretty comfortable as they're watching on Sunday?
Yeah, I'm going to get back onto my my strategy of riding whoever is playing the Jets. And this week it's the Cardinals, who, have lost a couple in a row and haven't been the team we thought they were going to be. But I think they'll be able to handle business against New York on the road.
And for me, it's going to be the Ravens. Again, 13.5 points is a big number, but at home against the Bengals, against a rookie QB, I think Lamar Jackson and company and that 3-headed monster in the backfield is good enough to get it done. And you should be able to watch that one for fun, but not sweat on whether or not your survivor pick is going to come to fruition. No matter what game you watch, enjoy them. And I hope you enjoyed watching this. Thank you so much for hanging out with us. And please like, favorite, share, and subscribe. Until next week, take it easy.